I'm quite happy to be here today. I was advised not to mumble too much by good friends and cut the crap by other good friends because I had a much too large presentation and it was going too fast. So, and after all what we heard today, I have to also tell you I can't give you a pep talk. Let's take the E out, let's make it entertainment. And I'll just show you in the beginning a series of photographs that were taken between 1999 and 2004 in the Andaman Islands, where I had the chance to go due to being invited by Professor Rauf Ali and Harry Andrews, then director of the Madras Crocodile Bank. And, well, I think my motivation to go there was mainly, I was afraid of the jungle. I've never been to the jungle before. And I wanted to see about this naive Westerners notion, let's say, we all grew up with very romantic thinking based on 19th century romanticism most probably, that there must be somewhere a simple life out there and there must be a nice village with nice people. So this gave me the occasion for, we were roughly traveling 3-4 weeks each winter on this simple dungis. Your bed sheet, if you want one, is a plastic rag, and dal rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The only contribution I could do over the years was to invent the idea of sushi. They just take that fish and eat it. But it was very interesting because they had a group of Karens working with them who were the boatsmen and who were running the show, basically. They got brought to the islands 50 years back by the Britishers because they were surviving the tough work in the jungle, and they are toughies. And so we traveled to all their remote villages, just through the jungle with a camera case like this. And yeah, it was great because they're really nice. And well, 3 years later, you also come to the conclusion that a village is a village is a village. Because Manish Chandi, who was traveling with me most of the time, was very helpful with translations of what they had going on between each others. And once you get the real insights, it's like anywhere. It can be in Germany, it can be just anywhere. A village is a village. So, and then sometimes we were lucky to have friends there that would provide us with shelter and a white bed sheet. And Havelock Island was always sneaked in on the way back, where we could stay nicely. And it was also very clear that I didn't want to shoot it in color, as there is so much of that tropical island paradise. You have all seen pictures from the islands, I guess, and that was not the intent. Or some pictures like this I would not take. They forced me basically to take it because it was an old lady suffering, and I normally would stay away from such things. I will never photograph anybody who does not want to be photographed. You just don't impose yourself. And, well, so later we returned after the tsunami, but that's a different sequence. That's not in here. And that's the boss, obviously. You can see she was ruling the village. And yeah, so that is that. And in that house there were 10 kids living down because we were taking all the kids from the surrounding villages in. Upstairs we and the other guys had to live, the ladies were living downstairs. And the priest had a bit of a problem because in 2000, when we were there for the New Year, he had predicted the world would go down under. The next day, he was in real trouble. So and now this slide is from my mother. She sometimes mentions, son, you also have to earn money. So that's why I put this in, because there's also students here, and one should not get the impression that you can do artwork or anything unless you have money. It doesn't work. And obviously, as you could see before, I do have a certain liking for portraits, and yeah, a certain fun or intensity has to be, and that was shot for Vogue magazine. And you can make it light, or you can make it heavy. Or this is German's design pope, Eric Spiekermann, who founded Meta Design. I worked for these guys for years, and or union leader, shot on, I quite frequently in those days used field cameras where you shoot on sheet film. It makes it a little different, or beauty does help. And then another core thing, or this is Gerhard Richter, he is worldwide the highest paid German, highest paid general artist. That was shot for the Guggenheim Foundation in Berlin. Or this is a local thing. I photographed Aisha Kapoor since childhood. That got her the film Black with Amitabh Bachchan. And then they asked me once to photograph her for the Casablanca store with some accessories. And I just went back to my hill and came back a week later with it. That's stupid. Make a brand in her name, just create a new shop chain. In 4 years, they went from 50,000 to 500 lakhs. So that worked quite well. That's a big production we put off in the US. Mercy that is for a company, a bank basically for housing renovation loans. So here casting is important. You have to have the right location. You have to have fun with it. And or this is what I really like. This is this kind of staged photography where you spend a lot of time in set building and lighting and resolution ain't too great, okay. And where you use, in this case, for example, cliches from film noir, the mafia kind of theme, but transported in a different context. So this is our bodyguard at home, trying to feed a child. I mean, the child was eating pasta for the first time in his life. Or that's for a magazine editorial about a scientific article that couples, if they stay together a little longer, start dreaming at the same time of the night. And this is, it's basically you try to find as good as a location you can, and then you bring in additional props, people, and the right light. And I tend to work a lot with this light coming in from the back. This is when you're on location scouting in style. Somebody wanted to show off. It was my brother, who's of that plane it is. And he said, no, we can fuel it up as a local pump. We went down on the road, pushed it to the pump, and there it was photographed. And that was the location we were looking for behind. That was used for a concept for a book for Porsche. That was obviously not what they had on mind. But sometimes you have to do it different. Or this kind of photography, I think, is relevant because this dirty looks of street photography is actually more real or more interesting. I mean, the Porsche is really quite unsharp enough. I like that. If you don't see the product, it's more fun. Or this was about good research. The story would go, I'm a farmer. I have 150,000 acres of land. I have 150 cattle it feeds. I chucked out 8 cowboys, bought myself a helicopter. Now I show you how I round up my cattle these days. Or this is for an old age insurance where they just wanted it to be a little more settled. And then we said, no, let's change it. Let's change it. Make it a bit more fun. Yeah, and coming to the point of fun, I do think that, I mean, we don't consider what we do work. We work like a family setup. All the people that are working for me are good friends. And sometimes you have to convince your clients, especially if you have to deal with locations like this in Germany, that you have to do something different. So way back, I came up with the idea, okay, we take that plane to Iceland. So then I called up my brother in the US, who is a flight instructor and examiner, and said, there is something, you have to come. And he likes these things too. So he came down, and this is already in northern Scotland. So you have to go in funny gear. This is what you have to wear if you fly across the North Atlantic. And then we couldn't help it. We just had to start making fun of ourselves. You see that? It was basically the 2 Teletubbies going some wild place in a mad idea. But there's also a kind of, he cooks up good stories. He's actually a consultant and not only an instructor. So he came up with that great idea. No, we explained to them it's a proof of concept flight. Because if we climb long enough, at any given point, we can soar back. And it's much safer than any other single-engine aircraft, because that thing, you can retract that hood, and the prop will go inside, and then you have a high-performance soaring plane that would have a gliding ratio of 1 to 50, which means 1 kilometer height would give you 50 kilometer distance. So this is Faroe Islands. That's halfway up to Iceland. And yeah, then you sit there 5 hours, and there's only one big task: no loo, no loo, no loo. How does it go? And yeah, that was the first bit we saw of Iceland. And yeah, it's a way to combine work with fun, definitely. Well, I'll just let it run a little bit. Yeah, so basically in the work we are doing, it's not that I do it, it's always a team. As I said, it's mostly good friends, And yeah, they carry you also through a lot of shit. Like last year, I had a bit of a difficult time. I have to say, my Indian star producer, Anita Gore, and my German assistant, Navina Hausmann, took great care of me to just, you don't sleep enough, but get it going. So we live on lots of coffee and cigarettes. And yeah, so that is when you come in to Reykjavik. And the landscape is quite amazing. I don't know how huge that place is. The distance one way is roughly 3,000 kilometers. And I think going and coming back took us 30 hours. You want to get out of that red suit. And then next day we flew up full north. And on that entire island, which is most probably as big as South India, you don't have a single tree. That's totally nuts. But the fun thing is that I got the good contacts for there through Pondicherry. I know somebody in Pondicherry who is from Iceland, and she has somebody in the family who is an aircraft mechanic. So suddenly we had all the connections we needed, and even their outlying airports are posh. They have designer stainless steel things in the tool shop. I mean, it's crazy. So here we go. And I mean, if you see an American airport, they don't have this kind of neat cars. It's always a 1950 model, totally run down. Again, same story. And here we go. And then, yeah, sometimes you end up in difficulties. The plan was actually to do air-to-air shootings like you saw before, which is rather tricky. That's how they make their energy, geothermal. You might land up in rain, problem number one. Or then 3 days later, we managed to get out with the help of the tower team, who basically then used an old line I know from pilots. You follow visual flight rules, which translates for some pilots as we follow roads. And that's what we had to do to get out. And then here you see a happy pilot who just got out of shit. And so that was where we wanted to go to do that Ariel shoot, which we managed a little bit, but not too much, over a glacier. And then, thanks to the conditions there, we were coming in on a lava field. And Gerhard, as nice as he is, always provides the locals with test flights. That was a good idea. Only problem was our prop got hit by a stone. And this is very stupid high-end modern technology. It's made from carbon fiber. A normal prop you can just sand off, take the dent out of it, and you're off again. This one was a little different. You have to download the latest manuals from the internet. Luckily, he has a maintenance license. You take out the gearbox and the prop, because you can't change only the blade, which would be sensible. You ship the whole thing to Germany, and by Korea, the spare piece was coming in. So we had time to watch the landscape, check out diverse accommodation styles, and yeah, this is how we stayed in the end, the camping mobile. And that was the base camp. That's where another guy who was doing local flights there for tourists was based the whole summer. And we were so lucky because now we had 2 aircraft mechanics in the middle of nowhere, my brother and John. And then Sigi, the guy who was running the place, was a certified licensed mechanic to sign the repair off. It's paperwork till the brim. I never do such things again. And yeah, so we had little time to explore the islands. If you ever get there, that's where you have to go, the Blue Lagoon. It's definitely fun. And it's not only a pool, they also have a bar in the pool. And it's 30 degrees hot water in the middle of the landscape. Well, cello, I think the 60 minutes are over. Thank you so much.